Hello, I'm Keith Spera from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Welcome to Let's Talk. My guest today is a former Jesuit high school kicker who went on to become the 59th mayor of New Orleans. He served 2 terms just like his father before him. As the president and CEO of the National Urban League, he now lives in New York, but still keeps close tabs on the city he once led. Every July, he returns to get his groove on at the Essence Festival of Culture, which was founded during his tenure as mayor. Here to talk about all that and more is Marc Morial. Mr. Morial, welcome.
Keith. Hey, Keith, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Good to be here with you, and always congratulations on what you do. I always look forward to what you write, your insight on music. I'm a music guy. I love music. Can't play it.
Neither can I.
But I love it.
Neither can I. So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. When you go to the Essence Festival nowadays, are your seats as good as they were when you were mayor?
Yes, because I pay for them.
You spring for them now, huh?
I spring for them now, and I like to sit in the front on the floor. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be in the suites. I like to be where I have an unobstructed view of the musicians. I like to see the musicians work and perform, and that's what I've enjoyed for years at Essence, is to be right in the front, because it also gives me a chance to, not only enjoy, but do my little evaluation of the artist, their show, their bands, their choreography. I think that so much goes into a big show in terms of the dance, the choreography, the costumes, the music, the sound. And the Dome is an incredible venue, but it's a tough place to play.
Yes.
Very large, the stages are large. You've got to do a lot to hold the audience. So I am just absolutely, Keith, proud that Essence has been here 31 years. I can tell you that at the very beginning, I don't think that was the vision. Mm-hmm. It was going to be a 1-year celebration. It was going to be a celebration of the magazine's 25th anniversary.
That's right.
And I remember the night, the third night, right as the concerts were closing, I was standing with Ed Lewis.
One of the founders of Essence Magazine.
The CFO came up. And I remember Ed said, well, how did we do? And he said, we didn't do bad considering, right? Because in the first year, all the revenues were generated by ticket sales. There were no sponsors.
Right. Because
they didn't envision it as that type of an event. And I think the realization was, wow, if we just added a few sponsors, this becomes a net gain for us. It becomes a show that can survive. And so 1 year became 3, 3 became another 5 became another 3 more. And here we are 31 years later. I think, Keith, what New Orleanians should be proud of and what we should understand is the ability of the city to create these types of music festivals. The Jazz Fest is homegrown.
New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, right? Over 50 years it's been around, right?
And an international extravaganza. The French Quarter Fest, which my father was one of the founders of, and there's a story behind that, now 40 years old.
Right.
The Satchmo Fest, now over 20 years old, in Essence 31 years old. And there've been others. I know there's a fried chicken festival, and there's been Lollapalooza, and there've been a whole lot of other things, but it's the ability of the city to, I think, create, and also not only create and execute, but what we have, its appeal, is something that just attracts people from all over the world. So I'm proud of Essence and the partnership that the city continues to have. Look, it's taken the city, it's taken the state, it's taken the hospitality community, it's taken Essence and Essence Communications through 3 ownership groups to make this what it is.
That's right, and it's still going strong. I remember running into you at the 2024 Essence Festival and Cash Money Records compound backstage.
Yeah. That was fun, and it was exciting because, look, we have in New Orleans multiple music traditions.
Yep.
Gospel, jazz, R&B, pop, and we have a hip hop and a rap tradition.
Yep.
And I thought that last year was important for Cash Money and that team and that sort of family of artists to get some recognition and get, I think, the light shined on them, because to some extent, people think hip hop rap, they think New York, they think LA, they think Atlanta, they don't think New Orleans in the way that they should, but our contributions, whether it's Cash Money or Master P, have been significant.
Well, I mean, nobody had sold that many records out in New Orleans since the heyday of Fats Domino as the Cash Money guys, the Element guys. And they sold incredible numbers of records in the 90s and early 2000s. Right. So that is a legacy that needs to be dealt with.
And I think we all have to recognize, look, music to me, and at the beginning of my administration when I served as mayor, we created the Mayor's Office of Tourism, Arts, and Entertainment, the New Orleans Music and Entertainment Commission, because before that, the city didn't have a formal instrument or formal office to facilitate and promote and engage. And I remember one of the things we did in 1995 is the head of the then City Film Commission had a brilliant idea. She said, let's go to the Oscars. She said, let's have an event at the Oscars to promote New Orleans as a destination for film. Well, now, 30 years later, it's an incredible story that got started, with those types of things in those ways. And so the city should be proud, but now you got to work to keep essence and to work to continue to evolve it. You've got to work and look at the Jazz Fest and say, can it be even better than it is? Or the French Quarter Fest, and can it be better than it is? And I also think imagining new is a very important thing too. You can't just rest on yesterday.
No, indeed.
You've got to continue to try to evolve. And look, we've got the Dome, we've got Smoothie King. There are multiple club venues, there are multiple, if you will, theater venues in town. I mean, there is just so much, and I like the city's positioning as a cultural center. That's our unique sweet spot.
Absolutely, and I think the Essence folks recognize that the 1 year Essence was held not in New Orleans, it was in Houston in 2006 after
I went. I got caught in a traffic jam.
I was
Love
there
you,
as well.
Houston.
I was there as well.
But it wasn't an experience.
It did not work.
It just didn't work.
Didn't work. No. At the 2024 Essence show, the Cash Money backstage, you were wearing the most fabulous pair of red bedazzled shoes. Did your wife approve of you wearing those shoes?
She approved of it, but she said, "What are you doing?" She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'll buy you a pair too, right?" I decided to do a little something different, right? I don't have my red shoes this time, right?
I was hoping you wear them today.
I didn't bring them, but it's fun to kind of, do festival attire. And, we also, at that same Essence, recognized Frankie Beverly.
Well, I was going to say, that was, he was a cornerstone of the festival for all those years, and he was clear leading up to that 2024 Fest, he was not in good health.
Yes.
And you guys, and Mayor Cantrell and some other folks honored him on stage.
It was very important to do that, and I always loved Frankie, and his music is iconic, it's special, and ending the show, it was also always in those days in the 90s and the early 2000s for me, like almost a spiritual experience, because we were celebrating, and I'd sit in the front and look at the back and look at all the people singing the lyrics and having a good time. And that's what makes Essence. Essence is, in many respects, almost like a family reunion.
Seeing all those people doing the electric slide on the floor of the Dome was just an amazing, amazing sight. Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is former New Orleans mayor and current National Urban League president, Marc Morial. I want to go all the way back. I mentioned in the intro you were a kicker at Jesuit High School. I read somewhere that you were one of 14 black students at Jesuit at the time, out of like a student body of 1,000.
Jesuit, when I joined the student body at Jesuit in 1972, there were 14 black students out of 1,000. And black students Jesuit at the time was 125 years old. And black students began going there just probably 8 to 10 years before. Not even 10, maybe 6 to 8 years earlier. And so some of the early African-American pioneers at Jesuit were Edgar Chase, Marlon Gusman and his brother, Ron Mason, who ended up being president of a number of universities, were pioneers at Jesuit, African-American students. So it was, Jesuit's an incredible institution, but it was tough sometimes to be in that environment. But I had spent the prior 4 years at Christian Brothers School, in City Park. And at that school, I was the only black student in my class. There were 2 black students in the school. And so it was quite a challenge in those days. But my parents were very much civil rights champions and civil rights leaders. And they wanted all of us, there 5 of us, to attend those institutions they couldn't get into. So they pushed us sometimes into interesting and tough places and said, hey, you better swim.
You better swim. I understand you had a pretty significant afro.
And a big afro, man. It was the style of the time. You know, the bigger the afro, the more respect you got. And I played football. I played basketball.
So it fit. Your helmet fit over the afro.
Cool. You can see the hair in the back, though. You know, it was in the long hair days. I bet you had long hair in those days.
I had long hair at Texas A&M.
Yeah, man.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
I had long hair to my shoulders.
And if you didn't have long hair, you weren't it.
Weren't cool.
You weren't cool at all.
Weren't cool.
So yeah, those were incredible times at Jesuit High School. And I, you know, one of the things was the primacy in those days of high school football. It's still big, but before you had ESPN, before you had sports media, it was Friday night high school football.
Yes, indeed.
It was Saturday night high school football in places like Louisiana. So, you know, when we played Holy Cross, there'd be 10 to 15,000 people at the game. When Brother Martin and St. Augustine played, that was a huge rivalry in those days. You might have
Brother Martin Crusader right here.
Right here, 25,000.
Yes.
25,000 students, you know, at Ted Gormley Stadium. And even the basketball, high school basketball at the time, you know, gyms would sell out. I remember playoff games would have to be moved to Tulane or either Xavier or either Dillard or UNO at the time. So high school sports was a really big part of my upbringing and my experience. And I met so many people playing North and also high school. Because if you traveled all around town and all around the community, that's why I'm a big proponent. I was when I was mayor, I still am today, for youth sports. Youth sports, not just for boys, but also for girls.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a picture of you and your siblings watching your father being sworn in, I believe, for his first term as mayor. And there is a look in your eye, it almost is like you imagining, I can do that. I'll do this one day. I mean, did you have ambitions early on?
I always had ambitions for politics and leadership.
As a teenager?
Yeah, and even before that. My father, when he got elected to the legislature, I would go spend probably a week or 2 weeks with him in the legislature, at age 10, 11, and 12. I got an opportunity to sit and watch the proceedings of the Louisiana legislature. And it piqued my interest. As a young boy, I went to civil rights rallies and political rallies with my father. I remember going to see President Johnson at Union Passenger Terminal. I remember going to rallies at civil rights rallies at the ILA Hall when it was on Claiborne Avenue. And it had an impact on me. I mean, my father never pushed me to become a lawyer, never pushed me to think about politics, but it was natural. And my brother and I think, gravitated, you know, into, to some extent, what he was doing. Now, my mother was also an activist, a civic activist, but she did it in her own way and in her own lane. But we were, you know, we were bit by the bug. We saw it as a way, and I had spent, I took a semester off from college to work in my father's 1977 campaign. And it was a controversial thing for me to do because my mom said, when I told my mom I wanted to do it, she said, it's a bad idea and you shouldn't do it. When I asked my dad about it, he didn't say a thing. He said, ask your mom. But I knew he wanted me because he needed me, right? I thought he needed me to get in my head. But I had to make a promise. And it was a promise I made to my mother that if I took the semester off, I'd still graduate on time. So I ended up actually finishing the University of Pennsylvania in 3.5 years by doubling up and going to school one summer. But it was always, I think, something I wanted to do because I understood it, you know, politics and civil rights and community activism, I saw as avenues of change, avenues of betterment, avenues to affect and make people's lives better. And that's what motivated me in as much as what you could accomplish through politics, or accomplish through advocacy, accomplish through community service, accomplish through civil rights, more than just the fact of being in it.
That's right. I grew up in New Orleans East.
Whereabouts?
Morrison and Mayo.
Oh yeah, I know.
Kenilworth Park.
Kenilworth Park.
Kenilworth Park. I remember when your dad ran for the second term against Ron Fauché.
Yes.
Now,
it was a tough race.
Our neighborhood, you know, was pretty equally mixed, black and white.
Like New Orleans East was in those days.
Yeah, but it was. I still remember this day. You knew exactly if it was a black family or a white family by the sign in front of that house. You know, it was very
That
very
was
strict.
a very, very tough, hotly contested, to some extent, racially polarized election. But my father managed in both of his races he had to, because the city was majority white at the time, to garner a significant white crossover vote. The first time he garnered 20, the second time he garnered about 15, which in those days in the South was quite a feat. And I learned from him the value proposition of coalition building, coalition politics. And even though his base, like my base, probably was the African American community, we all, I think, he and I both, I know, worked very hard to build an inclusive administration, an administration that included everyone in it. And I think in municipal politics and city politics, whether you're in New Orleans or Atlanta or Pittsburgh or Chattanooga, I think that's how you got to govern.
Absolutely. Well, and my point being, I think those lines have softened considerably since then.
They have.
Quite a bit. Like, I mean, New Orleans is going to elect a new mayor this fall, and I don't think it's going to run along racial lines.
Not completely.
No, it's always a factor.
It'll be a factor, but it isn't as hardcore as it was
Correct.
in the 70s and the 80s. And those races were very, very difficult. I mean, I shouldn't say difficult, they were hotly contested, but let me tell you the good news about those races. You had 75, 80% voter turnout. Everybody had a position. Everybody had an opinion, right? And I don't like this 25, 30, 35% turnout situation. And I've told people running in this cycle, and I've met with, by the time I get through one more meeting today, I will have met with all 4 major candidates for mayor. And one of the things I am encouraging them and all people who run for office is to state your plan for the city. Be very clear about what you're going to do. People want to hear what you're going to do for them. They don't just want to see a food fight. They just don't want to see I'm better qualified than you conversation. They really, really want to listen to a conversation about what you're going to do for them, how you're going to improve the community. And I hope that given the city's condition and challenges and the concerns about the condition of the city, that this election is going to break the pattern of the last 2 or 3 and have high voter turnout. And I think over 50, 55, 60% would be good, because what that confers upon people is the consent of the governed. That's the cardinal principle in American democracy, consent of the governed. Well, you got 25% of the people, you can win, but you don't have consent of the government, because it means 75% of people, for some reason or another, voted for none of the above by not voting.
Which is not a good thing. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is former New Orleans Mayor Marc Morial. So as you look at Mayor Cantrell's administration, do you ever think to yourself, man, I should have traveled more on the city's dime? You think you can take more trips?
I was selective. I believe the mayor has to travel.
Yes, of course.
It's very important to travel, but I also very rarely took a trip that was more than 2 or 3 days. Now, when I went internationally, whether it's to Africa or Latin America or Europe, those trips were selective because I felt like I needed to be, it needed to be purposeful. And my view of all of it, my schedule was transparent. I released every Monday a public schedule, so people knew where I was going to be. And I felt it was very important to not play hide and go seek with the public in terms of where I was. I think that it's always tricky about travel. And then whenever we were in hurricane season, I was very, very reluctant to go anywhere because I thought that you could very easily get caught, out of town.
Well, right. And regardless of the merits of the particular trip, politics is also about public perception.
Yes.
And I think, Mayor Cantrell definitely has generated a public perception problem with all the traveling. So again, even if you can justify the trips, it doesn't look good.
I was active in the United States Conference of Mayors. I was president of the Conference of Mayors. I was a committee chair so probably a significant amount of my travel was that. The other travel was business gathering, business pursuits on behalf of the city. We'd go to New York every year. We'd go to Atlanta. I think you have to have a theory of travel. You have to have a purpose for travel.
Yeah.
and not travel just for the sake of travel. The mayor gets invited to an endless number of things. I mean, in this job, I'm now on the 9th day, 10th day of a 2-week trip. I started last week. I was in Tampa, then I was in Charleston, then I was in Savannah, then I was in Atlanta. Now I'm here. But I run a national organization.
Right. So you're
so I have to travel.
Constituency is the country.
92 affiliate offices around the country. But I do think, in the campaign for mayor, I think it's a fair question to ask, what will be your approach to travel?
Yeah, for sure.
What will be your approach to when you travel, how you travel, the purpose of your travel? And I always honestly wanted to report back to the people. With
an accomplishment. Saying, here's a deal I got.
Or groundwork we were laying.
Yes.
Right. And so I remember when we went to Prague, Czech Republic. Well, why did we go to Prague, Czech Republic? We went to go look at the motor system for the new Canal Street streetcar at the time. So they made a motor system. They made it in Czech Republic. The underneath, I think they called it the truck, right? And so we went to go look at it because the Transit Authority was considering multiple options, for the truck system so there were those sorts of trips. But my thing was I'm gonna be upfront about it. I'm going. This is why I'm going. People could question, those trips, and it's fair to question those trips. But I think you're right. I think the more important thing at this point is because there's been a fair amount of conversation about it.
Yes.
Is for these 4 candidates to be asked. Absolutely. What's going to be your policy? What's going to be your approach? So if someone says, I'll never travel, that's bad. If someone says, well, I have to travel and I'm going to travel, I think people are looking for a more salient answer.
That's right.
And also, so interesting conversation. But I think the mayor's race coming up is, I want to see vigorous debate. I want to see good conversation about the future of the city. And that's what I want to publicly encourage. If any of you candidates are looking, if the citizens of the city are looking, encourage good, strong conversation and debate. Force it to be around issues that ought to be about jobs, ought to be about public safety, ought to be about infrastructure, ought to be about inclusion and equity, ought to be about housing. It ought to be about regional cooperation. It ought to be how you're going to deal with the state and the feds. Sometimes the state and the feds have to be dealt with because they may not be supportive, they may be hostile, but how are you going to deal with that? That's
right, it's all those issues. You've been president of the National Urban League since 2003. You're 67 years old. In the last 3 minutes that we have left here, I mean, this is the job you ride into the sunset? I mean, you're not looking for any other?
I'll never retire.
You're never going to retire?
I'll never retire. I'm not the retiring type, and I've had an incredible experience at the National Urban League. I don't know what's next, but I think about it more now than ever before. What might be next. I'm thankfully I have good health. Our 3 children are, now out of the house. The youngest is in sophomore at college, and so you begin to think about what we might do next. But I'm born to serve. I like to serve. I like to be in leadership, and so whatever I do, but retiring and going to the golf course every day, not me.
Not your thing.
Not me.
I mean, if a Democratic administration comes along next time and offers you like a cabinet post, I mean, would that be something you'd be interested in?
I've always never said no to that. I think it depends on the circumstances. I mean, I would love, the chance to serve a president you believe in, But also, Keith, I'm not speaking out of school. Sometimes I think, when I look at this, I look at the landscape, I mean, and I'm not making any announcements. I ask myself, why shouldn't I be running for president? I mean, honestly, when I look at the landscape and look at the need for leadership and the need for people who can be effective and inclusionary, people who can connect with the public, who can cast forth a vision, the country, I don't care whether you're red, blue, independent, left, right, wherever, there's a lot of disaffection with the direction of the country, a lot of disaffection with the leaders, and sometimes I think people are looking for something different, something new.
No announcements being made here today, but you're not retiring anytime soon. Last 90 seconds here. You no longer have a house in New Orleans. You live in New York full time, but I did see a picture of you at your mom's funeral doing second line afterward. So you still You got the vibe. You still got the New Orleans vibe.
People, when you ask me, where's my home? New Orleans is my home. My forever, ever home. Where do you live? I live in New York. So New York is our adopted sort of new residence. And, it's been a great place. We've made great friends and relationships. It's a dynamic, powerful, interesting city. It's in some ways, New Orleans and New York have certain similarities, right? Mm-hmm. Contentious, aggressive politics, incredible diversity, culture and music. New York's is different than this. New York has theater. We don't have theater here in the same way.
Right.
But the cities have interesting similarities, both old American cities with lots of history, and also cities with significant similar problems.
Yep.
Affordability, housing, too much poverty and economic strife. But I have, this is home, sweet home forever and ever.
And when the time comes, you want to be in that Morial family crypt with the...
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to be in the dirt here in New Orleans.
God, I pray for that. Yeah, I pray for that. That's where I'll be.
That's where you'll be. That's where you'll ride it out.
Yeah,
well, good.
But I appreciate you, Keith, and I want to certainly thank you for having me. I want to thank the LAE team for what they do and continue to do, and just want you to know, I just think it's so great that the newspaper continues to have a commitment to covering with depth and some sophistication the cultural and music scene in the city. You do a great job. You're great because you're knowledgeable about all these different genres. I'm kind of amazed sometimes, right? I bet you had an album collection, man.
Oh, it's getting bigger every day.
Yeah, you still got it?
Getting bigger every day. But yes, I got back in the vibe.
So my way of listening to music now is Alexa. I say, Alexa, play Louis. Alexa, play Biggie.
You're
Alexa,
a modern guy. You're a modern guy. Thank you, Marc Morial. I appreciate your time, man. Once again, I'm Keith Spera. I'll see you next time on Let's Talk.